So, good morning, everyone. Uh, and the backdrop for today. um, anyway, backdrop for yesterday, the Drigong tea. I realized that somehow what I'm seeing is like the mirror image. So that's why it looked kind of weird to me. I couldn't figure out which building is where when I was talking about Drigong tea yesterday. Then on the recording somehow it turned out right. The mystery of Zoom. Anyway, this backdrop is I'm sure May and Peter and people from Malaysia would recognize. Very iconic, from my hometown where I was born, on this island called Penang. There's a huge Buddhist kind of monastery campus. Actually, not enough monks or nuns, but a lot of buildings. Uh, and it's in the name of the temple locally, using local dialect, people call it Keklok Si. Si is like a monastery, and Keklok is actually Dewa Chen. So it's at least in name is dedicated to Buddha Amitabha. It's a Chinese Buddhist institution built in the early 1900s, not that old. There are two waves of Buddhist presence in what we now call Malaysia. It's basically what we now call Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, that whole area. There are basically two waves of Buddhist presence. There's a much earlier wave that ended around maybe 14th century. And the much earlier wave goes back to perhaps even King Ashoka's time, which means to 2nd century BC. And then it went on, kind of slight presence probably at King Ashoka's time. Then at various points, there were kingdoms led by kings who were Buddhists in that whole area. And probably went up to around 14th century. 14th century, by 14th century, that area have more or less become Muslim. Conversion through trade, through wasn't, maybe some people think, oh, military expansion. No, it was through trade, through, and also in the broader context, Southeast Asia was transforming. So places like Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, Thailand, that were previously kind of Mahayana, Vajrayana, around that same time, 14th century, also there was a transformation. They converted, so to say, to Theravada. So all of this has to do with the fate of India. In India, Buddhist India went into very serious decline. And at that point, Buddhist India was Mahayana Vajrayana Buddhist. So Southeast Asia saw the decline of Buddhist India and turned to look for alternatives. The simple version of what happened. Whereas mainland Southeast Asia, as those places are called, turned to a different Buddhist tradition. They converted to Theravada. Island Southeast Asia converted to Islam. So that's the first wave. Second wave came with the more recent immigrants. Even though in the first wave there were Indian and Chinese immigrants, but most of us Indians and Chinese descent in Malaysia don't trace ourselves back to that first wave. The time of the first wave. It's the second wave, which is when the British controlled Malaysia. And they brought in a lot of workers from India and from China. And so with China came the second wave of Buddhists. And so my community, my family, and the rest of us, um, we are from this second wave. So this temple, this monastery, is from the second wave. There are archaeological sites of things from the first wave. One that was recently discovered in the last couple of years and made like big news around the world because previous discoveries they didn't find such a impressive like life-sized Buddha statue that was intact. But they found that in the northern part of Malaysia, not far from where I am actually, where my family is. So anyway, good morning. Let us start with the opening recitations. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Page 6. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment. and aversion. May all other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Bhajra Samaja, Bhajra Samaja, Bhajra Samaja. Protect us of all sentient beings without exception, deities who vanquish the ruthless hordes of Maras, knowers of everything as it is. Bhagavans and your retinues, please come here. Argyam Padyam Pushpe Dhupe Aloke Gende Nivede Shabda Pratija Soha. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain. Four continents, sun and moon, I hold in mind as a Buddha land and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure realm. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. Namo to the Guru, the complete purity of phenomenal existence. I make offerings to you who manifest in the ground of phenomenal existence and supplicate you for the total liberation of the three realms. Grant your blessings of dredging samsara from its very depths. Lord, wish fulfilling gem, ornament of my crown, beyond word and expression is your victorious mind, endowed with the five superior primordial wisdoms, epitome of love, the one with kindness. Precious protector of wandering beings, I supplicate you in the innate state of my mind, bless me in that state of suchness. Grant your blessings for realizing this primordially birthless and completely pristine mind as the Dharmakaya beyond thoughts. Take a few moments to let body settle into its own place, recognizing the qualities that can arise when body is settled in its own place. As body settles, let breath settle. Let the in-breath settle into its own place. Let the out-breath settle into its own place. And from there, let mind settle to its own place. This expression of into their own places don't need to take too literally. Is to suggest an attitude towards body, breath, and mind that doesn't try to own them. More importantly, don't make the mistake of identifying any of these three as self, not letting any of these three become the basis for the delusion of self and the suffering that comes with that delusion. Even in virtuous practice, if we don't know how to practice, we could actually be feeding the poisons. And so here, let body settle into its own place. Let breath settle into its own place. Let mind settle into its own place. As body settle, recognize the qualities that can arise when body is settled. As breath settles, recognize the qualities that can arise as breath settles. And as mind settles, recognize the qualities that arise when the mind settles. To recognize these qualities means to directly experience the qualities, the advantages of body settling, breath settling, mind settling. At your own pace, when you are ready, turn your mind to generating bodhicitta once again, remembering all the main points of generation of bodhicitta. If in this moment you feel that highlighting the loving kindness aspect of bodhicitta is what you need, then give more attention to that. If you feel that highlighting compassion is what is more needed, do that. Or if you feel that focusing more on the aspiration and application, bodhicitta vow, then you can focus on that. Otherwise, remember all three of these crucial elements. May all beings have happiness and well-being. May all beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all beings achieve complete and perfect Buddhahood. And may all beings meet the causes for achieving complete and perfect Buddhahood. In the instructions of knowing, Gilbert Rinpoche's instructions on the importance of knowing this vital point about timing, it says that when things are flourishing, when your virtuous practice is flourishing, then is the time to strengthen even more this bodhicitta. Strengthen bodhicitta, strengthen aspiration prayers. If virtuous practice is feeling stagnant, then we need to focus on purification. And if virtuous practice is declining, then we need to focus on taking that decline, taking that suffering, taking that setback onto the path. Integrating then into the path, rather than letting those situations derail us from the path, take them onto the path. All of this done with bodhicitta as motivation with bodhicitta as the underlying ground, then we can never go wrong. Then whenever you are ready, arise in the form of idam. Whether this idam is the co-emergent Chakasamvara, Lord and Lady, or this idam is Vajrasattva, or this idam is Avalokiteshvara, or Tara, or Manjushri, or Amitabha. Doesn't matter which idam. Which one is best is the one that you can most naturally arise as and have confidence that you are indeed this idam, this form, this appearance. Remember some of the key aspects emphasized in the practice of idam. Chief among them is holding the divine pride of the idam, mindful of the symbolism of the appearance of the idam, and developing clarity with regards to the image. There's also the method of relying on the 5 steps, the 5 manifest awakenings. The first one being emptiness, the second one being the sun and moon and lotus seeds. Or sometimes the first one, emptiness, second, seed syllable, third. There's sometimes variations there. So remember the instructions of the manifest awakenings as a more spelled out, step-by-step way of arising as idam. You can apply that if you want. And from the syllable, then the symbol. From the symbol, then the full appearance of the deity. And these are the 5. Holding the identity of the idam, now invite the presence of the Guru to manifest. Remember the kindness of the Guru. Remember the various aspects of the Guru. Make offerings to the Guru. And feel the confidence of being blessed by the Guru's instructions, Guru's practice, Guru's bodhicitta. With that guidance, with that blessings, now let the bindu arise in the center of your heart, blue in color. And rest there with the blue bindu as the object of focus. Knowing that now we are cultivating natural state Mahamudra at the point of steadying the mind first, steadying the heart, remembering the importance of needing to steady or to stabilize the heart, the mind, before proceeding further. Otherwise, to proceed further, we will not be able to experience the power of what comes further. Not only that, we may distort what is being said further down the road on this path. So it's really important to have familiarity with steadying the heart, steadying the mind, with the exercises of either holding the bindu or without signs, with signs, without signs. They are both. The goal is to steady the mind, to steady the heart. Generally, regarding this Mahamudra, although there are many different names applied to it, they do not transcend and they do not go beyond this single essence. What is this single essence? Lord Tilopa said, Kieho. Kieho is like wonders, wonderful, how wondrous. It's an exclamation. This is the wisdom of self-knowing awareness. It transcends the path of speech and is not an object of the mind. I, Tilopa, have nothing at all to show. Know it by taking your own self-knowing awareness as the example. So this is Tilopa giving Naropa some instructions on recognizing this self-knowing awareness, which is how I'm translating Rigpa. Rigpa often these days in English is translated as awareness. That's, I think, too passive. It's like the person in a coma. Does he have awareness or not? Awareness sounds so passive, you know. Rigpa. Rig is to know, related to, as in knowledge. It's pristine knowing. It's knowing that is prior to subject-object division, subject-object bifurcation. So it's a primordial, pristine knowing. That's the verb there, you know. Then the verb there, do this rig. So self-knowing awareness. So Mahamudra, we can talk of Mahamudra as a method, as a path. So sometimes they say there is ground Mahamudra. Ground Mahamudra is speaking about what is the basis. Then the basis is this self-knowing awareness, also called Buddha nature. That's the basis. Then Mahamudra as path is the method, the approach that we are taking in this Fivefold Mahamudra. Then Mahamudra as result, which is Buddhahood. So here, you could say Tilopa is talking about Mahamudra as the basis. So what are we working with? What is it that we are trying to recognize, and after recognizing, to familiarize, to habituate? Then he says, it's this wisdom of self-knowing awareness. As for this wisdom, it transcends, it goes beyond speech, the path of speech. So speech is not just, you know, what is said out loud. There's a lot of speech going on up in the head. It covers that. So it says it's also not an object of the mind, not an object of the intellect. You cannot intellectualize it. You cannot think yourself into enlightenment. You cannot think yourself into awakening. You can do different methods and, you know, approaches to frustrate thought, to push thinking process. But all of that is not because thought or thinking is a problem, but is to help us gain some kind of freedom and then understanding of what actually thoughts are, you know, what actually conceptualities are. So in this approach, we really need to have this deeper understanding that, you know, whatever it is that, you know, at different points of this path that you're doing with thoughts, to thoughts, first of all, it's not because thoughts or conceptualities are by nature an enemy that needs to be dealt with. But we are doing different things to conceptualities along the way, because that is how the very place that we are lost is that very same place that we can be find our way back. And so we work with conceptualities, we work with thoughts specifically. But this Rigpa, this self-knowing awareness, cannot be shown. Then what to do? Tilopa says, take your own Rigpa as the example. Then, of course, right now you're like, well, I don't know what it is. But here, take that as an example can be understood as you can start. So you can even start with like, well, the mind that knows, that which knows. And so there's some basis there. You can start with that, even though maybe that is not exactly what this Mahamudra as the essence, as essence of mind. Maybe it's not that yet, but you can start there. As he says, take that as your example. Work with that. Work with that which knows. In the Thai forest tradition, they also have this expression, who is the one who knows? Who is doing the knowing? And the one who knows is also synonym for Buddha, the awakened one, the one who knows. And the one who knows is the essence of our mind. It's not some person. It cannot be owned. But that is the basis we're working with. Regarding this pristine wisdom of self-knowing awareness, regarding this wisdom of Rigpa, some apply the label emptiness. Yes, it is also called emptiness. But here, in this teaching, it wants to emphasize. So sometimes you may use the label instead of Mahamudra, instead of Rigpa, instead of the pure state, instead of nature of mind, you may use the label emptiness. It's not wrong, because that is one of the terms used to point to what we're talking about. And so here it says, some may apply the label emptiness. So here in this case, it's not saying it's wrong, but it's saying if we are going to say it's emptiness, then we need to look closer so that we can avoid misunderstandings. Wrongly assuming, we're talking about the same thing, So some apply the label emptiness and then mistakenly practice Mahamudra by fixing their attention on a state of one-sided apprehension. What does that mean? They focus on an emptiness that merely negates appearances. Oh, it's emptiness. So you push away all appearances. You push sight away, sound away, smell away, taste away, touch away, thinking away. Push, push, push. Get out, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. Thinking, oh, now I have emptiness. I have found emptiness. It's like throwing everything out of your house, I want emptiness. I want emptiness. Now, it's true, in the preliminary trainings, it does say go to a place with the least amount of distractions. Yes, like I said, we do deal with conceptualities in a way that might look like we think. Conceptualities are like stuff you need to get rid of in order to experience emptiness. But that's ultimately not what we're trying to do. Throw it out, throw it out, throw it out. Oh, emptiness, So this is what he means by, if you apply the term emptiness to this nature of mind, to Mahamudra, be careful not to then cultivate this Mahamudra in a way whereby you think that emptiness is simply to negate, to cancel out appearances, thinking that it's a non-existence. But if you think that this emptiness, this Mahamudra, is an emptiness that is the result of negating appearances, then this non-existence is contingent upon existence. Then now, it's a partial emptiness. It's a conditioned emptiness. Like a pot being empty of water. And furthermore, this one-sided type of emptiness blocks the arising of appearances. It cannot tolerate appearances. But this is the wrong kind of emptiness. That it cannot tolerate appearances. That it makes appearances an enemy. Then it has gone in the wrong direction. This is an error. In this context, the reality of all phenomena is that they are nothing whatsoever. Yes, again, there's the language of, emptiness, nothing whatsoever. Yeah? Yet, this very reality, this reality of all phenomena, is that they are nothing whatsoever, meaning you cannot point and say, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. It's this, but then it's not that. No, it's not like this. Reality of all phenomena. Right? It's nothing whatsoever. Yet this very reality abides as the fundamental basis of all phenomena. This mind, this nature of mind is nothing whatsoever, yet it's the fundamental basis of all phenomena. So it doesn't make phenomena an enemy. Regarding this, the Heart Sutra states, form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is not other than emptiness. So it quotes a very famous quote, right, from the Heart Sutra. In the context of the Heart Sutra, the phrase form is empty refers to the emptiness of existence, the emptiness of conceptualization, the emptiness of appearance, and the emptiness of substantial entities. This is the emptiness of the nature of reality. But this does not mean, when we say the emptiness of existence, it doesn't mean non-existence. The emptiness of conceptualization doesn't mean no more conceptualizations. It doesn't mean no more appearances. It doesn't mean no more substantial entities. But it's the emptiness and that you could say coexist. So, therefore, co-emergent. Yeah. So, in Mahamudra language, Dakpo Rinpoche, Gampopa, uh, even ignorance, right, the ultimate enemy, so to say, of Buddhist training, uh, right? If there's an ultimate enemy, right, in Buddhism across all traditions, then it would be like ignorance is the enemy. But Thabo Rinpoche says co-emergent ignorance. The ignorance is co-emergent. So even ignorance is not actually an enemy. So anyway, this is the emptiness of the nature of reality. Meaning this is looking at it from the side of ultimate truth. Then we can say the emptiness of existence, the emptiness of conceptualization, the emptiness of appearance, the emptiness of substantial entities. This is the emptiness of the nature of reality. Regarding the phrase, emptiness is form. So remember the Heart Sutra has form is empty, and then that very emptiness is form. What about that phrase? This refers to the emptiness of non-existence, the emptiness of annihilation, the emptiness of voidness itself, and the emptiness of non-substantiality. In other words, this is the dependent arising capacity and behavior of emptiness. It is not as if these two first appear as emptiness and then dissolve back into emptiness. Nor is it that they were first empty and later appeared as manifestations. So he says, don't be tempted into thinking. First, emptiness. Then appearance is derived from emptiness. But sometimes the texts have language that suggests that. So these are the pith instructions to clarify. Because the nature of words, they are not ultimate. And hence the the need for a guru, or the need for gurus of various types to guide us, to navigate this for us. In the ocean of Kagyu songs, in the section on Marpa, it talked about the importance of the guru. And it even gives this example. It says, when Lord Marpa first came back and translated some of the texts into Tibetan, after they were translated and he made them available, one of his important disciples took those texts and then went, went somewhere, some other area. And you have to remember, these are the days without, way, way before. You can simply just order a book and then 3 days later or 3 weeks later it will arrive. Books were basically hand copied, So Marpa produced translation of some texts and then he allowed this one disciple maybe to copy and then left. Then it said that later Marpa practiced further, right? These instructions, and then realized that he made some mistakes with the translation. And then this is already gone, taken a life of its own, the original translation. So this in that story told, it emphasized the importance of having Marpa around to say actually that translation. So this, is very significant, because we generally don't say, Marpa made any mistakes with translation. But reality is that, yeah, it's not maybe not mistake, it's preliminary. Once more realization has arisen, and you can see, So recently, I was just having some chit chat with some of the younger people at the center. They ask, you guys are very much of your times, many of us are behind. Looking at all this, advancement in technology and AI and all of that. And I was wondering out loud if this particular direction may take us to a point where we can see how easily, not only how easily knowledge can be produced and disseminated, but misknowledge can also be produced and disseminated so quickly. So that I wonder if we are going to go in a direction, and how quickly, if we do go in that direction, that more or less we all become not trusting anything that is coming from the screen, and not even trusting anything coming from a book. That the only thing we trust is face to face. May not be a bad thing, that we are back to local, face to face, knowing each other. That's the only basis. And even that, of course, there are still challenges, But when you come right down to it, that's the only, if there's anything somewhat more reliable, is this. I mean, if you look at AI, I'm starting to think, what is the future of anyone publishing any books? They can outsmart you. Yes, of course, right now I can sniff, some writing. Yeah? You go, that's AI generated. But don't you get fooled. It will keep improving until you cannot tell. Then at that point, it's almost like rendering all books, all books, whether printed or PDF or whatever, completely kind of like they're equally kind of yeah, whatever. What? But it's not such a new thing. It's back to what Buddha fundamentally said. Words are cheap. It's beyond the path of speech. That if you're going to rely at all, in the end, it's your own mind, right? But then the path to that may be the person to person, the local. Anyway, it is not as if these two first appear as emptiness and then dissolve back into emptiness. Nor is it that they were first empty and later appeared as manifestations. Since there is no emptiness apart from appearance, and no appearance apart from emptiness, therefore, that third statement from the Heart Sutra, emptiness is not other than form. then form is also not other than emptiness, which is the fourth statement. Because phenomena is free from the three, meaning arising, cessation, abiding. Arising in the middle is abiding, then cessation. So appearances only have the appearance of arising, abiding, and ceasing. But in fact, when you go looking for it, you can't actually find it. So the absence of arising as an existing entity is form, is emptiness. The absence of cessation as a non-existing entity, in other words, it is not the case, that cessation means to become annihilated, to become nothing, to cease. Therefore, emptiness is form. Because there is no abiding in the phenomena of difference, form is not other than emptiness. And so this section, of course, if we have more time, we can slowly go through it. But it's basically rehearsing what has already been said, but said it in a different way. Now, this next part, in short, the nature of phenomena is not anything at all. It is not existent, meaning it doesn't stand alone out there. It doesn't exist from its own side, nor is it non-existent. It is not permanent, nor does it undergo destruction. It is not appearance, nor is it emptiness. It is not a non-entity, nor is it samsara, nor is it nirvana. Because it is not any single side, therefore we say it is empty. Because it is not anything at all, it arises without partiality. It is the indivisibility of emptiness and dependent arising. And so emptiness doesn't cancel out dependent arising. Dependent arising is only possible because of emptiness. Furthermore, because the nature of phenomena is not anything at all, it is emptiness. Because the basis of phenomena arises, it is dependent arising. Thus, because it is not anything, it arises as anything. It can appear, it can arise as anything. And that which arises as anything is not anything at all. They are indivisible. In this context, there is nothing to be established by asserting. This is the view. And there is nothing to be negated by asserting. This is not the view. Due to the vital point that it is not any one thing in a biased or partial way, hence we use the word evenness a lot. There is no fixed point of reference such as it is this or it is not that. Thus, there is nothing to be proven or cultivated regarding these 8 extremes. It is not, it is permanent, it is not permanent. There is no acceptance or rejection, nor any thought of this is meditation, this is not meditation. It is not a matter of blocking appearances to establish emptiness. We come back to the fundamental point. Please don't worry, don't stress if you're like, I got it at the beginning and then I got lost in the middle. Come back to It is not a matter of blocking appearances to establish emptiness. So emptiness is not the absence of appearances. It's knowing the nature of appearances clearly. How appearances appear. The temporality of appearances. The impermanent nature of appearances. Knowing that, recognizing that, is when we have some understanding. Oh, that's the emptiness we're talking. And that is Mahamudra, and that is Rigpa. Lord Gotangpa said, to this mind essence, primordially pristine, which is not created by a clever Buddha, nor contrived by an ingenious sentient being, to you, the naturally present Dharmakaya, I bow. When practicing in this manner, do not close the external appearances within. Do not radiate internal awareness outside. Do not constrain your consciousness. Do not let the mind fall into a trap. This great mind that desires qualities is itself the obstacle to the arising of those qualities. Therefore, do not maintain any desiring mind, any clinging mind, nor any objective focal point. Lord Gotangpa said that this objective focus of desiring Buddhahood is the obstacle to attaining awakening. Leave it in a state of relaxed openness, free from any fixed aim. This is what is called attaining the Dharmakaya. Whatever appearances may manifest, do not alter or manipulate them. Instead, sustain them in their raw, natural state. To sustain them in their raw, natural state is beyond this. Sometimes you hear about this. Oh, just let it be. Don't get involved. Often those instructions are misunderstood as becoming numb. Oh, don't get involved. Just let them pass. Not enough. To sustain them in their raw natural state means to see their nature, as not fixed, not permanent, but to see vividly, like a clear rainbow, but not like a dull state of don't engage. To sustain them in their raw state, in their natural state, means to keep your understanding of what they are and leave them there. Don't try to push them away. Don't try to hold on to them like a rainbow. All of these actually already taught in much less bombastic terms. 37 Bodhisattva practices, that section where it talks about, all the sufferings. It's like the child that you lost in a dream. Very strong image, very difficult image, in fact, if we're honest about it. Sometimes we're so spiritual that we're like, oh yeah, it's like a child lost in a dream. No, actually, don't immediately try to be a saint. Don't immediately pretend to be Milarepa. Mhm. Understand, child lost in a dream, but still it's a loss. Yes. But also it's a child lost in a dream. All the happiness, all the joys, all the wonderful things that you can imagine, including world peace and all of that. It says, regard as rainbows. So already, in those kind of like life advice about impermanence, right? It sounds like, oh, that's just so basic. But then, right, then we're like, oh, but I want Mahamudra. But what is Mahamudra saying? It comes back to this. All the fancy words of Mahamudra of Dzogchen, right? If it cannot be applied in real life experiences, then it's just some expensive hobby that you engage in. When you go to your yeah, hobby class, and sit around talking about the hobby with other people. Useless. Okay. Mm, that's it for today. And for a little bit. But it looks like there might be, right, some desire to to continue. I will say let's not create obstacles by being either too ambitious or not ambitious. So I would say, like do it for next week. Then see. In the instructions there it says, do not be excited if meditation arises. Also, do not be dejected if meditation does not arise. But that, of course, those instructions are given to people who are already left behind everything to go meditate. Again, not necessarily for us, weekend Mahamudra warriors. If we listen to that too literally, then we will get lazy. But strike a balance between, no, I think it's good for me to still continue Monday to Friday at this time. Then do it. Then see how. Anyway, to clarify, even though I gave some specific ideas yesterday, I'm not wedded to those ideas at all. The more basic point, if I'm wedded to anything, if I would like to see anything, is that somehow, even though I'm not coming on at this time to lead, maybe at least to provide a platform for anyone who can to come together and do this, and to make it easy, make it kind of less unruly. I think we should say, yeah, definitely it will end after an hour. There's no teachings, there's just practice, right? There's a suggestion to listen to some of the recordings. I think it's a great idea, but in order to do that, someone or a couple of people need to select which recordings. And I think, May and Jeff has kind of provided some ideas of each of the recording, what's in there. So you can also do that. But in this first next week, maybe the simplest is just someone do the opening prayers, someone do the dedication, in between, maybe some reminders. But I leave it entirely up to you guys. Good? Yeah, or, if you say, no, actually, I'm fine, you know, I'm going to listen to the recordings myself at this time and I don't need to come to Zoom. Yeah, that's also good. It's don't no pressures. And don't be so proud, if you turn up and then there's five others, you're like, yeah, we are the real We don't know what other people are doing. Page 78. By the virtues collected in the three times by me in the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtues, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Changchu Sem Cho Rinpoche Ma Ge Ba Nang Ge Gyu Che Ge Ba Nyam Pa Me Ba Yang Go Ne Gong Du Bel War Shou. Bye bye, everyone. See you guys at some point.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Yeah, bye bye.
Thank
Hello.
you. Thank you.
Good trip, Rinpoche.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.